Once you begin your broadcast. The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
All right. Thank you for attending today's webinar. My name is Mark Stepp. I am the Chief Innovation Officer here at Realvolve. I'm going to go ahead and show my screen, and we're going to go through a few of the top 10 ways to spice up your Realvolve database. And just want to welcome everybody that is joining. I know we got just a minute or two start delay. We had a little bit of a technical problem, but we'll get on there, get going here pretty quick. Letting just a few more people get online. Appreciate your time. Appreciate you investing your time in learning Realvolve. And I hope that this is going to be of use to you guys, that you'll actually enjoy this. One of the things that I do as Chief Innovation Officer is I really get in and dig in with what you guys are doing. So over the past 25 years, I've been doing CRM type stuff, and tags has always been an important piece of the database, and how you utilize those is important. So I titled this as top 10 ways to spice up your database, and I use that terminology for a reason. If I look at a spice rack, and here we have one on the screen, and I look at the spices, what's missing? Well, obviously there's one container that's out. That's really not missing. What's missing is the fact that there's no tags to identify it. Now, I can see very easily in there that there's a salt. I can see that there's some peppercorn. There's some hot pepper. But unless I'm really into it, and there's one down at the bottom here that could be cinnamon. It could be cayenne pepper. I'm not sure. There's lots of spices that look similar, and the same thing happens to your database. You may know a couple of them, but it's really hard to know them all. And that's where tags come into play. Tags can be used to identify your contacts in your database, making sure that you know certain elements of them as you go along. So here's tip number one. We're going to go through 10 different tips, and here's tip number one. Use tags to make contacts easy to find. Now, that can be entailed by lots of different things. You might use tags to identify them by demographics, what age group they're in, what family size, or are they grandparents, expecting, are they newlyweds? Those types of demographical tags are good to use whenever you're wanting to find groups of people very easily. Same type of thing for associations, maybe your Chamber of Commerce, or if you're in the Rotary or church, or in my case, Scouts. I've got a lot of Scout people in my database, and because I'm in Boy Scouts. The vendors, keeping track of vendors in your database, making sure that you can find those lenders, those handymen, those plumbers, those photographers or stagers very easily. Now, obviously, you should have multiples of them, and you're going to want to make sure that as you have them in your database, if somebody says, "Yeah, I need a plumber," I'm seeing that there's some mess in my thing. Do you have any suggestions? Well, you could pull up your list of plumbers, and it's just a way of being very helpful to your customers as they're trying to deal with a new home buyer or whatever. Same type of thing for their importance. Now, we typically say use the ABCDs. That's fine, but you may want to make it very specific. These are very hot clients or leads that I want to deal with, or hot, cold, very cold. So you can use tags for virtually anything. So realize that. Some examples of what you would use them for is, once you've got them tagged, maybe I want to send an email to everybody that's a new home buyer. Well, if I had to go through my database and remember which people I just sold to, it'd be really a challenge to get them all. By tagging them as new home buyers, boom, I can send that out. Same type of thing for people that visit your open house. You might have a an a registration page that as they come into your open house, they fill in their information, they put in their name, their email, their phone number possibly, and you put them in your database. Why not put them in as an open house tag? That way you know where you got that tag. And you could be more specific and say open house in a particular address. So that way, whenever they come in, if they get a feel for the house, they may like it. But one thing that's key about it, everybody that's coming to this house has some kind of possible interest in this style of house. Well, what if you found another property that you've got listed that's very similar to that same style, but it's in a different area or something? You could go to everybody that visited that open house and say, here, I've got another one, almost identical to the one that you saw on 123 Main Street. Just want you to take a look. You can send out those emails very quickly. A popular one that we talk about is missing documents, and I'm going to cover that as another tip to show you what's going on. Or our agents, this is the same type of thing. As just the other day, we were talking about tags, and Ryan Conway said, I also use them for keeping track of my naughty and nice list. And I thought, oh, that's brilliant. For those people, those other agents that you do business with, why not tag them whether they were good to work with or whether they weren't so good? And then you can put in some information in there. So one thing that you might take a tip from, which is a little added bonus there, is whenever you're looking at your list of tags, they're in an alphabetical order. By placing special characters in front of them, like the pound sign or exclamation, things like that, you can put them at the top of your list. So just a way to organize them. But if you saw that you had a certain agent that was on the naughty list and you hadn't messed with them in a while, then you can go back to your notes and actually identify them. So it's some very specific ways to use tags there. Now, here in the Springfield, Missouri area, we have our Springfield Cardinals. Now, you're familiar probably with St. Louis Cardinals. Well, we have a minor league team, which is the Springfield Cardinals, and they are feeder to the St. Louis Cards. But a lot of lenders, a lot of agents have either box tickets or some season tickets, and they want to be able to give them out. What if you had a bunch of your clients in your database and you knew you couldn't go to a particular game for whatever reason, and you wanted to give them out to a couple of your clients? Well, by having them maybe tagged as sport baseball, you could very easily find all those people that are in there and then send out an email saying, hey, I've just got a few tickets, first come, first serve. Let me know if you're interested. And boom, you've got instant communication with your people, and very relevant. They're going to reply. And the major benefit there is it builds reciprocity. It builds that desire for them to help you because you've done something good for them. Another one, which Ryan brought up, and I am not a golf person. I've never quite figured out exactly how you're supposed to hit that little tiny ball with that club and get it into any kind of hole that's hundreds of yards away. It just does not seem like that is a relaxing type of sport to me. But many people do, and I get that. But what if you had your contacts in there that you knew played golf and you needed to play in some kind of foursome tournament of some sort, and you just didn't know who to contact? Well, using a tag, you can come up and do the sport golf tag and be able to quickly find people and say, hey, I'm putting together a foursome. Would you be interested? And that's just a great way to build relationships with your people. Again, all of this is doing stuff with your databases, making sure that you can do stuff with them. So, being able to classify, find, and email those types of people very quickly is what's important. And we'll cover as another tip on how to do that. But understanding that there is an easy way of doing that with tags. Now, some tag etiquette. Here's tip number 2. Less is more. Whenever you're creating tags, make sure that you don't overcreate tags, and definitely create the tags that you need. But if you find that you're using a tag and you really don't use it for anything, you can delete it. Whenever you're under the tags section on the left-hand side, you can click on your tags. You can see all your tags. Whenever you highlight a particular tag, if there's nothing in there, you can just move your mouse over the top of that little tag entry and delete it. It will delete that tag from the system for you. Likewise, be careful about over creating tags. I've seen people where they've put in, my leads and leads, or buyer 2016 in this case, and also somehow buyer 2016T got in there. Now, you don't necessarily want to lose anything in there. If I was to highlight the buyer 2016T, there is something in there. There's a record that's currently tagged with that. But one thing that you can do is you can merge them together. Select the tag that you want to change, and in this case would be the buyer 2016T. Move your mouse over the little pencil, and that will bring up an edit tag option. Now you'll see the old tag, what the old tag is, and then there'll be a place where you can type in a new tag. And as you type in that new tag, you can just rename that tag. If that was a tag, it was the only one, and you just wanted to rename it, it didn't quite make sense, you can rename them. But you can also rename an existing tag to another tag that's already in there, and it will merge those two tags together. In this case, I already had a buyer 2016. I want to take that old tag and anything that's tagged with buyer 2016T, rename it with the buyer 2016 that already exists. And that will effectively merge those two tags together. Hope that makes sense. Tip number 3. Now we're just kind of rolling through these. What we're going to do is have a little question answer at the end, and I'll try to get into some specifics, but I want to make sure that we hit all 10 topics very quickly. Workflow markers. Now, we've had the question, I want to be able to find out what people are on what workflows. I'm not understanding that. Well, an easy way of doing that is maybe on the very first activity in that workflow. Maybe you're sending an immediate email, or you don't really have to do anything, but one of the actions that you've got in there in that particular activity that's going to be run is, in this case, send an email. And in this case, I'm going to send some kind of thank you for listing. And what you can do is use our tagging options for that action. Each action can do basically 3 things right now. We're getting ready to add some additional features there. But one of the types of things that you can do is add tags. Now, you can add tags to the individual property, either the listing or the transaction, and it will tag it to that. If you wanted to add the tag of new listing, which is the new listing workflow, I might have renamed that to new listing workflow, might have made more sense. But if I wanted to make sure that I knew everybody that was on that new listing workflow, I could add that tag to them. If you're dealing with anybody and you want to add a tag to the contact, maybe the seller, maybe the photographer or something like that, you have the option here of adding and removing tags from the contacts that's selected in the width of that activity. And I'm not going to cover that a whole lot. Just understand that you have the opportunity of setting the tag of the property or transaction whenever you're doing a property or transaction workflow, but you also have the ability to tag the contacts of that activity if you need to. So if you just want to be able to identify quickly which workflow they were in, you can certainly add a tag to the very first entry, and then as you complete that activity, it will add that tag to that property. Tip number 4, filtering tags. Now, the very first thing that we talked about was tagging people and why we need the tagging. Well, here's how using filters, you can actually find those contacts, and you want to be able to find them easily. Under the contact section, and actually under the properties and transactions section as well, there is a filters section. In that filter section, we've got the tag option, in which case we show a list of all the different tags that are available. Now, it's a long list potentially, so we have the ability to search a tag, so you can click into the search and you can start typing. Maybe I wanted to find anything that deals with newsletter. Now here's a situation where I've got two newsletters. I've got a newsletter and I've got newsletter 2015. That's really not that smart, but it's there possibly for a reason. Maybe you've got certain things that for new people you want to do different than older people. You put somebody in 2015 and you want to be able to segregate those for some reason. That's a reason for having two separate. But if you wanted to send a particular email to everybody that has newsletter, whether it's newsletter or newsletter 2015, you have the option of checking both of those checkboxes for the news. And then what it'll do is it will show you everybody that's in your database. And I'm just showing my sample training database. There's 22 people in my database that have either newsletter or the newsletter 2015. Now, in order to differentiate those, we've got three options up here at the top. We've got an any, an all, or a no. And the difference is, and it's an important distinction, some people if they're more technical, they may understand oring and anding. I want to say anybody that's newsletter or newsletter 2015. The or is the any option. Any combination of these. If I've got a person that's newsletter, or if they're newsletter 2015, or if they have both options possibly, I could put them, by checking them, it will effectively reduce or expand the types of people that I have in my list. Using the all option, that means all selected options have to be present on that contact in order for it to show up. So I may have, say I wanted to send some newsletters to everybody that belongs to, say, the Chamber of Commerce. I could choose the newsletter, and then I could select Chamber of Commerce and use the all. That means it's only going to go to those people that are selected with newsletter and Chamber of Commerce. So make sure you understand that the all, really all people have to have all the selected tags in order for them to qualify for the list. The last option is the no option, which is they can't have any of the selected items. If you wanted to pull up everybody that's not currently on your newsletter list, you could choose the two newsletter options and you could choose no. So it's going to pull up everybody in your database that does not have either newsletter or newsletter 2015. Then you can go in, figure out if there's anybody you want to add to them. You can quickly add to that list. So some good things there. Now, one thing that I didn't put on my tip, and I just thought about it, I should have put on there, is if you want to add a tag to multiple records, we have that ability, and I'll have to show this to you once we get through this. You can click on the little view all option here. That will view all your contacts in your list that meet that current criteria. You could then select all those contacts, and then there's an option to add tags to those 22 records if you wanted to, or whichever ones are currently selected with the little checkbox. So that's an important one as well. So the other thing that we want to talk about, tip number 5, and this was an important one for some people to understand. Whenever you're dealing with a new listing and you want to be able to send out emails to maybe everybody that's a realtor, or maybe everybody that's in your office that's a realtor, You can come into, whenever you're setting up your activity in your workflow, there is the with option. It says pick interested parties. One of the options here is tag with any of, or tagged with any of, and then the ability to select which tags you want. And you can select any number of them. In this case, it uses the ORing or the any option. So if I wanted to send it to anybody that's tagged in my database is a realtor, then this particular, whenever this action actually gets sent, I send the email to the agents. It goes, looks in my database for anybody that has that tag, and then sends the selected email to those people and sends it as a personalized email. Dear John, just thought I'd let you know about my new listing. Dear Mary, thought I'd let you know about my new listing. And then that way you can personalize the outbound email so it doesn't look as spammy, but it also has the pertinent information about this property that you just listed. And it's an important feature, making sure that you use those merge fields so that you're using the same template each time, but it contains the address, the photos, the stuff that goes along with that property whenever you run this particular action. So some really powerful tools there. I know a lot of people were wondering, I want to do this, but how do I do this? And we don't currently allow you to do it outside of a workflow, but within a workflow, you can add it to your standard listing process. This is just be one of the steps of your listing process, your new listing process or whatever. So it will automatically send this email out once it comes to that due date. So hope that's a good one for you. Now, a lot of people have talked about dealing with milestones. I know with Kendall, as she's doing different things, she wants to make sure she knows what kind of milestone people are in with their new listing. So she has different milestones set up for like needs contract docs, marketing prep, launch week, listing maintenance, the offer was received, the price was reduced, the relaunch, or about to expire. These are all different milestones that you might tag to a listing. So at some point you want to say, well, I want to see all of them that are currently in my listing maintenance group. Well, then you can pull up, doing a filter, pull up listing maintenance, and you can immediately see every listing that you currently have in that listing maintenance. Or maybe you want to see everything that's about to expire. Very quickly see that list, and you want to do something with them and be able to differentiate them in some way. So these are the different tags that you might want to use. So how would you use those? Well, in this case, we're going to set up a milestone based off of another activity in a workflow. The particular activity is set up for check for missing documents. And it might be set for 2 days after listing or something like that on the win. So whenever 2 days after it's listed, you come up with this activity on your calendar and you go to complete it. Well, what it's going to do is it's going to give you some checkbox options. In this case, I've got some static checklist items. I also have some mail merge fields in here that will contain the values of those fields of this particular property, of which I've got the listing contract, the seller's disclosure, the seller's agency agreement, different types of things like that. This activity comes up due, and maybe for some reason I don't have the listing contract or I don't have the seller's disclosure or something like that. What you can do is have actions that are dealing with these checklist items so that whenever I, say for instance, set up the send missing documents email. If I have some missing documents, I want to send an email to maybe the agent of this. Maybe you're the broker and you want to set this up to go to the agent, or you're the transaction coordinator. You want to make sure that the listing coordinator, you want to make sure the agent gets the information. You can send it to the agent. So here in this case, this is a send missing documents email that would go to that agent. It's set to send manually with preview. That just gives you the ability to edit it before it goes out. We're sending an email, and we're going to send the missing documents email. Whenever that email gets sent, I want to immediately tag that transaction or that property with the tag that goes along with it. In this case, my milestone, which is need contract docs. So I can put that in as a milestone, and then whenever I go through and I complete this email, it sends out that email. It immediately tags that property with that milestone tag of needs contract docs, and then I can pull them up at any time. Now, the way this is set up is because down here at the bottom, I have this selected as action for incomplete checklist. If this action only shows if I've got missing checklist items. Once I see that there's missing documents and I run this, it's going to set this up and do the process, and then it's going to reschedule it for 2 days. 2 days later, it's going to come back due again. Now, I might check them off. If I check them off, I did get my documents in. I might have a different action on that same activity that is have all documents. So it just maybe, I want to send out an email, or maybe I just want to do something because now I have all my documents. Well, what I want to do in this case is I want to change my milestones. Down here, you'll see that there's a little tag with a minus. In this case, it's going to remove that need contract docs. I no longer need them, so let's remove that tag off that property. But at the same time, I'm ready to do the marketing prep. So I'm going to add marketing prep to my tags so that this property now is in that milestone area. So anytime I wanted to do a filter of any of my properties that were dealing with marketing prep, I can find them easily. So that's just a great way of identifying the milestones of either workflows, which was tip number 6, I think, and then this one, tip number 6, where you're able to do the milestone based off of the action being run. So hope that makes sense. Now, tags in imported leads. Now, there are a lot of people that they get leads from maybe title companies, and they want to import them on a regular basis. Maybe you're getting them, weekly or monthly or whatever, and your title company or whatever may have certain things in them that you want to use as tags. Now, in this particular case, I'm showing a couple different examples. Here I've got John Smith. He's in my CSV file. I've got one column here, and I just labeled it tag 1. It could be labeled whatever. It doesn't really matter what it is. I just want to indicate that this is a tag, and it's labeled as lead, for lack of a better tag, okay? I've got another column in that same CSV file that I'm going to import, and I want to import it as well as a tag. So I have the option of selecting multiple columns to go into my tag fields. I also have the ability that if the CSV file has those two tags grouped together in one column, I have the ability. So whenever you go to map this and you select, first name, last name, address, it just kind of shows you what the heading is. In this case, my tag 1, which was my column D, I'm going to assign it to tags. My E2 tag is going to go into tags as well. And likewise, I have the ability to assign my multiple tags to tags. Now, what it does here is it looks for a separator, like a comma or a semicolon, in order to differentiate this. Whenever it imports a multiple tag into the tag field, it will go ahead and break them out as 2 separate tags for you and put them into your database. So just let you understand that as you're importing information, importing your leads, make sure that you tag them accordingly. Make sure that you can find them and search them, but realize that you can tag them multiple ways while you're doing that importing. One other option in this is if you've got the entire list, maybe you and I didn't show this as an example, but whenever you're importing your CSV file, we do have a field at the top of that import option, which allows you to tag all the selected. If I had 1,000 names in the CSV file and I wanted to add a specific tag to all of them, all 1,000, I can do that by adding that tag in that import tag field. So realize that that's available as well. I should have put that on an example. So, let's see, tag, this should be tag number 8. I think I didn't rename 8 and 9. One of the things that we do is we integrate with Zapier. And one of the powerful pieces of Realvolve is the ability to both bring in contacts, but also send out contacts with our Zap. So we can send them out based off of different needs that we may have. In this particular case, I may have a Zap that is either inbound or outbound. It doesn't really matter, but I wanted to set up a filter, and you can set up, there's an option in your Zaps to say, well, I want to only bring in certain names based off of whether or not they have certain tags on them. So in this case, we may be taking the new contact in Realvolve, and we want to send it to our MailChimp email system. But I only want to send them if they are considered a lead. I want to put them in a special lead MailChimp category. So what you can do is set up the filter so that it uses the tag name list. And what we do is all the tags that you've got assigned to an individual are put into a list with a comma separated list, basically. So you can go in there and say, well, anything that contains the word lead in it, I want to send to my leads MailChimp list. That way, if you add a new person, but it's not a lead, you don't want to put him into the lead MailChimp list. You want to put him into your current client list. You could set up a different Zap, one for lead, one for current clients, and then that way they go into their appropriate group based off of the need for that particular situation. So I hope that makes sense. The ability to filter based off of those tags within Zapier is a powerful option. Here's the actual tip number 9. Which is the ability whenever you're bringing in leads, making sure that you tag your leads as they come in from a Zap. Now, whenever you're assigning fields within the database, and this is one that we use internally, so whenever somebody fills out a form within the Realvolve database, and we know that they are coming from some other CRM, we have a field called current CRM, if any. And what we do is we assign a tag of lead, which is just a static lead tag, but we also can use the tag of whatever's in the field of that form that I'm bringing in. So the way you guys could use this is maybe you've got a form on your database, and in that form, you've got a field that says they are a seller, and another field says that they are a buyer, or maybe it's a drop down, buyer, seller, or both. Well, that particular field on your database or on your form could be a field that you're parsing and bringing into the Realvolve system, and then you can make that a tag. So whenever this comes in as lead, you can immediately say, well, this is a seller lead, or this is a buyer lead, or they are going to buy and sell. So using the merge fields or the field tags are a powerful piece for being able to deal with those leads that come in. You don't have to just tag them with static information like the word lead. You can use content from within the form itself as you're bringing them in. Tip number 10, and this is probably one of the more important ones, especially for larger groups, and I left it last just so that you can kind of see the things that we're doing here. One of the challenges that you get in, which was one of my etiquette issues, was whenever you are a user in Realvolve, whenever you go to add a tag, and I'm gonna show you how to add a tag live here in a second. If you have a list of tags and you don't see what you want in there, you might go in there and just type it in. Well, you may not want everybody to be able to just type it in. You can go into your users and permissions section. So and this is an admin has to do this. They can go into the settings, users and permissions. Inside there, select the person, and there'll be an area there that says click here to configure security permissions. That'll open up a little area, in which case you can check the option for tag. That allows them to create tags on their own. Once you've selected that, you can click on Save Permissions. Now, admins have full rights to add their own. So if you give somebody the admin rights, they're going to have that permission automatically. An admin has full rights to everything. But for those users, maybe sub-users that are not admins, and you want them to only have certain rights, but you don't want them to go just adding whatever tags that they feel like they need today, adding those permissions is an important piece. So one of the things I wanted to do real quickly, we're right at the 40-minute mark. I'm going to open up let me see if I can find it here. Open up my Realvolve system here. And just real quickly, make sure that you guys get a couple things. So I'm going to come under here under my contacts. Maximize this. So we've maximized the list. If I come in here to maybe Bob Hope, and I look at the radar tab on here, over here on the right-hand side is the tags option. Again, if I wanted to come in here, I can select a tag. I can pick whatever tag that I want them in. If I wanted to put them in maybe newsletter, I can select the newsletter option. By typing in, it finds anything that has the word newsletter in it, and then I can select it. Once I tab out of that field, it goes ahead and adds that tag to it. If I'm an admin or that I have rights and I want to add some kind of specialized tag, this is my tag, for lack of a better name. I tab out of it. It then adds that tag in there. If I don't have the rights to do that, it'll let you type it in, but you leave that field, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't save that tag at all. So just make sure you understand that particular piece. The other thing that I wanted to show you, which I didn't include in the tips, but really should have been on there. Say, for instance, I wanted to do my filter, and I wanted to find everybody that's on newsletter and newsletter 2015 in this case. So we're going back to some names, and I click on the little side name here. Now I've got just a bunch of names. If I wanted all these names to have some kind of new tag, I can click on the little select all, so I can select them all. Or if I wanted to turn off some of them, for whatever reason I don't want some of them tagged, whatever, I can come up here to the add tags. I can come in and either select a tag. Maybe I wanted these all to be newsletter 2015. Some of them may not. But I want to make sure that all of these are specifically selected as tagged as newsletter 2015. I can select that, say tag them now, and now each of those selected contacts in this are selected with that newsletter 2015, whether they were or not. It just verifies that they are. So that's an easy way to tag lots of people. And if I was to go in here going back and say, well, I want to find everybody that's not in my newsletter. You'll see down here, they'll say a summary of the information. Find contacts tagged without newsletter and newsletter 2015. So of that, I've got 589 records that do not have that tag on there. Now I can go in there and I can select anybody that maybe I want to put on the newsletter. So it's just a way to weed them out easily. Same type of thing that is available for your properties, the tagging capabilities. If I wanted to tag properties, I could do my tag and be able to do my filtering, being able to do my tagging and stuff like that. So that's available. Under the workflow section, if I'm doing that new listing, see, new leads, actually new leads. No, I don't want to do that. I want to filter by, and one thing that is something that you might want to do, you may want to use tags, which tags are used everywhere. So I use top 10, but really there's so many more than top 10. In this case, you can even tag your workflows. So maybe I want to tag some workflows that are lead generation. In this case, I've got one called lead generation. If I pull up lead generation and I find anything that's got lead gen in it, and that's partial of that tag, I now see that new leads is in there. I might have, what are my buyer workflows? What are my seller workflows? All kinds of different possibilities. And if you tag them properly here, you can quickly find them whenever you go to start them. Even you can do a search by their tag and be able to find them. So if I come here to new leads, I can use them. One of the things that I just want to make sure everybody is aware of is making sure that whenever you're using your tags, you can use them in your activities as well, so that if you wanted to mark certain types of activities, in this case, this is really a good example, but maybe for instance, this is a closing day activity, for the lack of a better one, and I wanted to click this as a tag of closing day. So whenever this activity gets created, it gets put into my calendar and it's tagged, that particular activity is tagged with closing day. I can go to my tags and say, show me everything that's closing day tags. And then that helps me identify just those activities in my list that deal with closing days. So it's so powerful to be able to use tags in multiple ways. Okay, so we are at the 45-minute mark. What I'm going to do is we have over in your section, your questions section, we have some questions, and I'm going to answer those. If you have any questions, certainly ask them away. So have you shared your screen? Oh, I hope I did. Oh my goodness. I hope everybody was able to see my screen. If not, let me know. And looks like Dave is a Cubs fan, so he says go Cubs. I understand. Thanks, Dave. Is there a way to search for someone who specifically has one tag and specifically one that does not have one? In this case, sports golf, but does not have 2016 buyer. We are working on that. Being able to do anding and oring within that, we don't have that yet. And that is something that is needed. We will get there. Realtor, not realtor. Sorry about that, Susan. Yeah, you're right. Realtor. I guess part of my hillbilly slang here in Missouri. Apologies. Awesome info, had to run. Yeah, we are recording this, so I'll be posting this as quickly as I can. Yes, we are recording this, Jeff. I found your YouTube channel. Looks like it. Yes. Do the tags exist for all three items, contacts, properties, and workflows. Yeah, tags are in pretty much everything. We allow tags, contacts, properties, transactions, workflows, even your templates. Something that I didn't really cover is in templates. You might want to tag your templates for like thank you, any kind of thank you type items. So if you want to pull up some kind of template that deals with thank yous or referrals or whatever, tag those templates so that as you need them, you can quickly and easily find them. We've got another Cubs fan. Laura's a Cubs fan too. We'll have to deal with that. And then, so tags will proliferate widely, I imagine. Tags can get out of control if you don't use the etiquette. So definitely, be mindful of how you're using them, but definitely use them where you need them. That's an important piece. What is the smoothest way to move from one workflow to another? There's still more to that. Let me see what the rest of that says. I.e., new listings to installed listing that you suggest tagging as a self-reminder. Okay, so one of the things that you could do within a workflow, say you've got a workflow that is a new listing and you want to move it to a stalled listing. One of the actions, and let me just pull up, this really isn't necessarily, well, I guess you could use it, because what you could do is one of the tags might be that you've set it as a stalled listing. It's not really going anywhere, and you want to filter, so you could go into your listings and say, pull up all my stalled listings, and I want to start a new workflow on that listing, being able to set that up. So you could go in there, pull up your stalled listings, and then just start that workflow. Unfortunately, you don't have a way of starting that workflow for all of them yet. You have to do them one at a time. That is another enhancement that we've got on our list, is being able to start workflows with multiple people. There's some issues with that, making sure that you don't overload yourself. But in either case, using those tags to be able to do that. What you might do is have a particular, at the very end, maybe at the very end of your workflow, you might have an action, which is send text in this case, but well, that's a weird one. Let me refresh my screen. I think whenever I share my screen, some weird things show up. What you might do is set up the action on the workflow to be able to start the next workflow. So you might have a question in there: is this one of the activities on there? Has this listing stalled? And in which case, if it has, you can start a workflow that is the stalled workflow work series. And if it doesn't, then you can say, based off of it not being a completed activity, set the offset for maybe 2 weeks out, check it in 2 weeks. So you have the ability of setting up your actions to be able to remind you to do things, including starting of workflows as well. Hope that answered that. Do you have a list of tags that we can use to decide and get an idea of idea of what we can use? Sadly, I don't. I can come up with kind of a accumulation of some of the most common ones and see if I can post that as a document, Samantha. That's a great point. It really comes down to each person can use it however they want. Tags are not set in stone in any form, fashion, or way. So again, somebody that uses a particular tag you might not see as useful, but they do. So pick and choose as you want. Okay, we are getting close to the end of the list of questions. Anybody else have questions? What can we use to create tags from our website visitors? Okay, again, if you've got your website visitors, you have a lead come in from your form. They fill out that form. It sends it to a Zap, and inside that Zap, you're able to then be able to assign those items. So let's so here, let me see, create. Let me go back to dashboard. Okay, I'm going to show like one here. Whenever we have a new user, and this is some stuff we use this ourselves. As we're going through this, a new user comes in from our subscription. They sign up. We create a contact within Realvolve, and it goes through and we can assign the different fields of information. In this case, we take their address, their information and stuff. You can, and at this point right here, put them in the tags. Now, we just use a Zapier active and onboard, which means it came in from Zapier. It's an active user, and we put them on the onboarding, the 30-day onboarding notification. So every day you get that onboard email. Down here in the workflow, whenever I'm creating this activity in Realvolve, I immediately start my 30-day onboarding workflow. So that way, the very first item on that particular thing is send a welcome email type thing. So there's all types of things that you can do to automate it. The key to this is making sure that your tags go along with whatever you're bringing in. And these are just static ones, but you can come over here on the right-hand side. If you've got certain fields within your database and you want to be able to bring in those fields as a tag, you can click on the little down arrow, select the type of tag information, and then select that field, and it'll put it in. Make sure you do put in the comma to separate them. Otherwise, it might concatenate words together, and you don't want that. So if you wanted to add a field, make sure you put a comma in there. Do you think it will notice when a contact is already a contact? Yes. Whenever we import from Zapier, actually there was a challenge on this. I believe our team has taken care of it, but whenever you're importing, we do check the email address and the phone number. You need to figure out which one you're going to use, but if you have a home phone, use the home phone field or work phone, or whatever phone that you're using. Make sure you use it consistently. But if you've got an email of a person and we find that email already exists, we will update that record with the information that's in the Zap, just so that you know that. Do you have a stock email requesting comprehensive contact information from a new addition to your database? What? I'm sorry, but I'm not following that one, Kristen. Do you have a stock email requesting comprehensive contact information from a new addition to your contact? No, I don't. But that one of the things that you could do there very easily is use Google Forms to create that list of things that you want to bring in, and be able to utilize that information as a Zap as well. So anytime a new row is added to the Zap, or to the form in your Google Sheets, it would zap that information in. So that would be an option. So you might go in there and create a form that has, your first name, last name, home phone, work phone, address, email, that type of information. Create that as a Google form. Whenever they fill that out and they save it, it goes to a Google Sheet. those individual columns are then able to be mapped with the Zap to be able to bring them right into Realvolve and update them in there. Is it automatically importing into Realvolve from Zapier? Yeah, that's the point of Zaps, is to bring it in automatically, Lewis. That's exactly it. What is the client ID for? Client ID, that is kind of a generic field that you can use for your own purposes. I know used to, and it may not as many people use it, but you might have a bunch of folders still that you keep all your stuff with, and you have them client ID coded. Like in my case, where my name is Mark Stepp, I might put it Step MA01 as a client ID. You can use it for anything. It's just an ID that's associated to it so that you could, print labels, or if you wanted to use it for some kind of searching purposes, you could certainly do that. On keyword, I'll search. Can you bring the results with yellow highlight so that I can find the word faster? We have discussed that, and that is a great question. It's kind of out of the scope of this, but great question, Don. I do have that in an older list of things to look at. It's not something that we currently have on there. Could I do a webinar on Zapier? Yes, I can. We do have some in the YouTube channel, and I will, but I can do an actual webinar specifically on that. Sorry, but I'm still a bit confused on Zapier. Where do I find it? Zapier.com. If you just go to Zapier.com, it is a separate site, separate service. You can do, I think, up to 80 or 100 Zaps a month for free. So if you've got leads coming in and you don't have, more than 100 of them, or more than 80, whatever the number is, you can use it all you want. If you need more than, I think you can get up to 600 or so for like $15 a month, something like that. But it's going to reduce your data entry. $15 is well worth it whenever you're dealing with that, and it can come from virtually any source. Okay, guys, we are at the right at time, so need to wrap it up. Couple more here real quickly. Do you have, does your 30 board onboarding start automatically once you do? Yes, the 30-day workflow, whenever I bring it in from a Zap, the Zap creates the contact and it automatically starts that workflow. The very first activity in my workflow for my 30-day, the action on that email is set for immediately, not automatic, but immediately. Whenever it's set for immediately, that action runs as soon as that activity is added to the calendar. So as soon as that lead comes in, it creates the lead, it creates the workflow, and the activity starts that action immediately and sends out that email. Hope that explains that, Lewis. How are you using the Zapier multi-workflow, or are you using it as a simple Zap? Well, how are you using the Zapier multi-workflow? You can create, like you might have a Zap coming in and you want to create the contact within Realvolve, but then you also want to create another action, maybe to go to MailChimp. You could even do that and have things go multiple ways. So I think that's what you're asking. A Zapier webinar would be awesome. Some more details. We'll set that up. So guys, we're at our time limit. Thank you so much for being on this. Thank you for all your support with Realvolve. If you have additional questions, send us an email, support@realvolve.com. Be happy to set that out. I will, as soon as I get this downloaded and uploaded up to YouTube, I'll let people know. So You'll be able to rewatch it if you missed anything. Thank you for your time. I know everybody has other things that they could be doing better, and you choose to be with me, and I appreciate it. So you guys have a great, awesome day. Talk to you later.